Other interesting cultural news, you have men banned from competing in women's cycling, which, if you were to rewind the clock 10 years ago, you would have been, well, yeah, obviously, why were they in there to begin with? But it's 2023, and 2 plus 2 equals 5. If you don't, we'll shock you. Literally, we're going to shock you until you change your mind. Does that sound familiar? It should, because you should read 1984, one of the best books ever written by George Orwell, ever written, period. I don't get a commission for saying that. Just a big fan of what used to be science fiction. Now is, unfortunately, becoming a reality, or actually, reality's worse. But I digress. In terms of this specific topic, you have this instance where you have trans-identifying male cyclist. Wait a minute. Okay, let me reword that. So you have biological males who identify as women and competing in women's sports. That's the summary of what's going on in, I was about to say the industry, the sport. Now, those men are now banned from competing in women's cycling championships under a new policy announced by the Union Cycliste Internationale. Cyclisti? I know it's a foreign sporting organization, but C- for marketing. I don't know about that. And that's a governing body for apparently all cycling divisions. Now, under the new rules, trans male athletes who transitioned after puberty will no longer be allowed to participate in any competitions and official events in the UCI calendar. Now, the prior policy for this sporting organization was that males could compete if their testosterone levels were below a certain threshold, that threshold being 2.5 nanomoles per liter for at least 24 hours prior to competing. Which, I don't know who thought of that arbitrary number, because obviously it's ridiculous, makes no sense. Well, many things don't. But the big issue that anyone with a modicum of common sense would argue is that your whole life, that person had the advantage of testosterone, and just on average, again, men are faster, stronger, reaction times, muscle fibers, bone structure, bone density. They have a huge physical advantage. That's why we have men's and women's sports. You have, I remember a couple years back, someone was saying Serena Williams was the best tennis player, and one of the commentators on the show says, well, yeah, she's the best woman. And they push back, why is she just the best woman? Why don't you say the best player? He goes, well, no, if you're going to put her, rank her among, men's division, she's mediocre at best. She'd rank, I believe, like in the 400th or something in the men's division. It's a different thing. That's why you have the separate sports. And somehow it's controversial to say you shouldn't be having men competing in the women's sports because they have that huge physical advantage. Now, they say they're going to have this new policy to stop that, but I'm pretty pessimistic just because you have more and more sports organizations along this. And there's a lot of concern because there's a lot of real world consequences. You have, everyone from high school kids to college kids, those girls having their scholarships taken away, or they're losing scholarships and opportunities because you have people like Leah Thomas, who, again, was like the 400th best male swimmer. And then Leah decided, oh yeah, I want to compete in the women's division and become number one, literally. That's not a coincidence. I don't see it ever going the opposite way, where you have someone who's born as a woman go to the men's division. No, it's not happening. So there's a big physical advantage, and I don't understand how that's a controversial thing to say these days. It's one of those things that's become a political thing, and I don't think it should be. But no one's saying they can't compete. People are saying you need to compete where it makes sense. And there is a debate some are having to say, why don't we have a special division for people who have transitioned? That's an argument that could be made, whether it's profitable or not. Given the numbers, it certainly would not be profitable enough to sustain itself. It might have to have subsidiaries from one of the more other profitable organizations to feasibly work. But that's a debate worth having, many are saying, where you could talk about making it fair for all the players. And it'll be interesting to see for the cycling, will they actually stick to their guns with this new policy, or will they simply acquiesce and pull it back and say, oh, no, we were kidding, it was a miscommunications. Please don't boycott us, the 17 fans who watch the cycling. Or no, sorry, 13 fans who follow women's cycling, because it's women's cycling. But we shall see. Now, thank you again for taking the time to tune in. I really appreciate it if you take the time to subscribe. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of July, and we're getting closer and closer and closer. Also, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.